am safe. I am loved. I don't need to survive, right? I need to live and I'm good. And you start to look at that thing with love and compassion. And you start to embrace that part of yourself and really look at yourself and seeing how can you integrate that into who you are? Because like I mentioned earlier, we're always winning. Every lesson is a blessing. Every lesson is a redirection. Thanks for tuning in today on Embodied Frequencies. We're going to talk about actually embodying a frequency. And the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So I wanted us to tap into kind of this perspective of that whatever we've done to this point till today, and if there's great things that you're doing and it's in alignment with your soul and who you're supposed to be, fantastic. And if there's things that you feel like you're embodying these frequencies or these energies that are not in alignment with who you want to be today or who you want to call in the future, it's okay. It's totally okay, because we are human, and being in this human existence is a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of trying things, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And it is a lot of requirement from our nervous system, from our subconscious mind, from our soul, from our energy, from our actions, from our choices that we need to make in order to move in the way that we want to move. So when I think about the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything, just take, for example, anything that you're doing in your life right now, whether that's, I'm going to just speak to my personal experience, which was to being an overperformer, an over people pleaser in my career. And, a lot of times, we are operating from the masculine. We're operating from the patriarch that we live in. We're operating from the doing and not the being. We're operating from this need to, I want, versus just being in the being and being in the sacred alignments or being in your embodied aligned action in order to bring in that thing that you want. So it's kind of fast paced, kind of always moving at triple speed at all times. And what happened for me, the frequency I was embodying was hustle, was completely hustle culture. And again, not my fault. Again, not your fault if this resonates with you. I can share a personal experience. My family is migrated here from Colombia. I am a first generation American. And when they migrated here, my grandmother migrated here with no one, left her children back at home while she was able to build a life here for about 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, to bring her family here forward. And all she knew was to hustle and grind and take anything that she wanted. And that's the frequency that she embodied. And while she was successful in this male kind of masculine energy of doing, so she can bring her children over and give them a better life, right? And then inside of that, like, I was born here and all the beautiful things that happened from being able to do that. My household grew up in a very unhealed masculine way. All the women in the household were living in their unhealed masculine. They never also had examples of what it was to be in your divine essence, in your unhealed masculine. And that led to a lot of burnout. That led to a lot of anger. So the frequency that my family was holding and the frequency that I learned was that in order to be successful, I had to grind myself to the fucking bone. I had to pretty much just exert my energy, people please, and do all the things and just take whatever I needed to take in order to be successful. So how does that go back to the frequency that I was embodying? at my age that I am now and all the spiritual awakenings that I've had till this day and now. And I'm so, so grateful for all those experiences that have led me here because, again, as I shared in episode 1, we are always winning. Everything that happens, even if it's not in alignment with who we want to be, or even if it's not in alignment with who we are now. And it's a reflection of how can we look at that thing with love and compassion and say, it's okay. And say, I know better now. And hopefully when you know more, you do better, right? So coming into this alignment of this frequency of this thing that I want to call in and starting to really realize that the way I did that is the way that I did everything. And also with the way I did that and hustling also led to burnout and not being able to show up in other parts of my life. So I was sacrificing parts of myself. I was in complete survival, right? Something I heard the other day from Mateos de Stefano, something that he said, and I've been saying it for the past 2 weeks. So almost everyone I've been talking to is this idea of death, right? And like we're all going to die at some point. And we have this fear around death and this fear of dying. And a lot of times that leads us to living this life as we're living right now. We're embodying the frequency of survival. But why are we embodying the frequency of survival when we're going to die anyway? Like there's nothing to survive from. Like it's going to happen. So why don't we live in the frequency of now, of gratitude, of presence, of love, and just live our life to live our life, right? And be in the beautiful abundance that our life has to give, right? So once you become aware and you can see that for what it is and start to realize the way I do this one thing is the way that I do everything. So how is all the parts of my life, how are they in alignment with who I am and who I want to be and who I want to call in? So my invitation to you right now is to think about that, is to think about how you're showing up in your job or how you're showing up in your weight loss journey or how you're showing up in being a mother or how you're showing up in just being a human and seeing how that trickles down to the other parts of your life and seeing if there's a common thread that you have there that is saying to you, yeah, I'm continuing to repeat the same cycles. I'm continuing to show up the way I'm showing up here. I am showing up in other parts of my life the same exact way. Right? So the first part is that awareness part. So taking note of that and kind of giving awareness to that. And then the next part of it is the healing part, right? So it's the healing of that. So now that you have the awareness, you can look at that with love and compassion and seeing, where do I need to heal? How do I need to change? How do I need to move so I can move in the embodiment and the frequency of the thing that I want to call in or the person that I want to be or whatever it is that you want to manifest in your life and the dreams of your life, right? Because embodying who we want to be, it's like an 80-20% rule. 80% of it is energy and 20% of it is strategy, right? So that 80% of your energy, of that frequency, what is it that you're moving? How are you moving? How are you doing things? How do you want to move? What's in alignment for you? What's not in alignment for you? And you really start to see that 20%, that strategy part is always going to be there. I can give everybody right now, if I had 10 people sitting in front of me and each of them gave them a blueprint of a strategy of how to embody their higher self or how to embody the life that they want to live. And each one of them are going to have a different outcome, right? Because each of them has their own perspective. Each of them has their own journey. Each of them has their own experiences that they have that they add to that formula. And each of them are going to embody different energies and different frequencies. So comparison, throw that shit out the window, right? Because sometimes it's easy to say, oh, I started the journey with this person and they're doing this, right? We're doing the same exact thing. Why are they there? Why they're not? First of all, comparison, throw that shit out. It's not even worth it. There's no point in comparison. We're all uniquely individual people and we all embody our own energy. So I want to bring you back and that 20% strategy, put that to the side and let's come back to that 80% energy and coming back to the way that I do this one thing is the way that I do everything. and really start to see how that affects your parts of your life and what frequency you're tying that into. So if you're calling in, maybe you're calling in motherhood, or maybe you're calling in a husband, or maybe you're calling in whatever it is. Are you putting yourself out there? Are you healing through the things that you don't want to call in? Or are you continuing to do the same patterns over and over and over, and then realizing you're just in a loop, right? And you're like in this thought emotion loop. So anytime you feel like you need to take an embodied aligned step, an embodied aligned action to call in this thing that you want, you go back into maybe a lower frequency of maybe fear or shame or whatever comes through for you. And then you go back into this like thought emotion loop over and over and over until you're like the hamster on the wheel, continuing to do the same thing over and over again. So I want you to ask this thing that I want. Maybe there's something else in your life that you do super, super well. What I want you to do is reverse engineer and take that thing that you do super well. Maybe you're really into fitness and you are so disciplined. You go to the gym every morning, you wake up, or you go to the gym at night, or however your energy level works. But you are embodying your movements, you're embodying the way that you eat, you're embodying, what you take in, supplements, etc. But you're really lacking maybe in your career, right? What I want you to do is take that framework that you're using it and figure out how you can reverse engineer it into this other part of your life. So as you start to move and as you start to call in this thing that you want in this career, let's say, you're moving in the same frequency of how you treat yourself as this person who loves to work out and go to the gym and do all these things, right? So I want you to start just thinking about how you move your energy and how you move your frequency and how, kind of what you need to do to make those changes. And a lot of it is self-reflection, and a lot of it is taking the time. So if you're thinking right now, I have no time. First of all, you've been listening to this for about maybe 10 or 12 minutes. So you've had time to listen to me, right? So maybe you can take out another 10 or 12 minutes and really do some self-reflection. And a lot of times we are refused to do the self-reflection. We don't want to work on themselves because we don't want to confront the monster underneath our bed. But what we're choosing to do is continue to sleep with that monster under our bed unless we go and kneel down, look under the bed and see what's there, see what's not there. See if there is a monster there. How can I get that monster out? And if it's not there, you're like, oh, okay, I'm just making shit up. I'm just imagining this. I can continue to live my life without being scared. So what you're doing is by not addressing the monster, you're continuing to live with the monster or the idea of the monster if it's not there or if it's there. So how do you plan to change your energy? How do you plan to change your frequency? How do you plan to tune in and tune out the different things that are not in alignment? And I want you to also think about when we're calling things in and we're moving in this energy and we're calling things in, what we're doing is we're asking God, source energy, the universe, our higher self, our soul, to really be in support of this journey, right? And a lot of times that means prayer for some of us, right? So we're asking God, please show me the way. God, please do this for me. What I want you to do is also reframe that and say, thank you, God. And in being in gratitude, thank you, God. Thank you, source. Thank you, whomever you pray to. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this thing. Because what happens is in order to call that thing that you want, you have to start embodying that person and that thing. And how that starts is with gratitude. Okay. So take a moment to be grateful. If that is really hard for you to pull and you're like, I have nothing to be grateful for, that first step of awareness, start to journal on that. Why don't I feel grateful? Why is there something I'm not able to embody? Why, right? And you start to bring the layers in and start to face the monster. And by monster, I mean your shadows. And I don't mean that they're monsters. I mean kind of that reference I meant earlier. And you start to embrace your shadows, right? So when you take a look at that shadow, you look at it and you say, thank you for bringing me this far, but I am safe. I am safe. I am loved. I don't need to survive, right? I need to live and I'm good. And you start to look at that thing with love and compassion. And you start to embrace that part of yourself and really look at yourself and seeing how can you integrate that into who you are? Because like I mentioned earlier, we're always winning. every lesson is a blessing. Every lesson is a redirection, right? It's a redirection to becoming a better person, to really identifying where there's opportunity, where there's opportunity for you to change, or where there's opportunity for you to be the same, right? And then I also want to make note of being in the presence of the future. While I know that in order for you to call this thing in, right, and really embody that person of this thing you want to call in, it requires you to be in the now. Even though you're thinking about the future, that future is now. So it's less about, I wish I had this, I want to have this, I want to do this, into, I get to do this, I'm doing this now. Thank you for giving me the opportunities. Thank you for showing me the way. So you're embodying that future tense right now, today. So my invitation to you is, what frequencies are you embodying? And do a hard self-reflection, whether that's journaling, voice noting, maybe grabbing a mirror and looking at yourself, right? Not looking at yourself to do your makeup or fix your hair or whatever. Really looking at yourself and looking at your eyes and saying, I love you. You are doing great. And we are ready to move into this new frequency. And yeah, and really just kind of go from there and really go from that love and from that loving place of yourself. If you're having a hard time doing that for yourself, then maybe start with a friend or a family member that you trust. And if not, you can always seek out talk therapy, or you can seek out healers or mentors like myself or soul mentors that can help you see and reflect that mirror and be that mirror for you as you uncover those parts of yourself, because it's hard. I know the work is hard and it feels like it never ends. And it feels like when you're doing one thing, another thing is coming right after it. And it's like a constant death and rebirth of these parts of yourself, and really looking at yourself to do that. So I really hope that this landed for you, and I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you in Embodied Frequencies podcast. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to my YouTube channel for those of you on YouTube. For those of you who are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or your favorite streaming, make sure you are following me there, as well as on social media at jessicadiana.so. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Cheers.